Hey, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Just a couple things before the video starts. I interview Sandee Sgarlata. We talk about overcoming stress. If you guys get any value out of this, please like it, subscribe, share with your friends and family. I'm really trying to reach as many people as possible, to help out as many people as possible. Feel free to skip through any of the video. There's chapters with headlines on each, so pick the ones you guys think would help you the most. And check out Instagram at The Mental Wellness Show. Post daily, talk daily there. It's a really close-knit community, and I'd appreciate if you checked it out. And that's a wrap. So guys, enjoy this video on overcoming stress.
Take a walk in nature. Just if you're stressed in there at work, take a walk in nature, and do some grounding. I didn't even talk about that. Can I talk about that real quickly?
Yeah.
So
Yes, please.
grounding or earthing is really, really huge. And what that means is, okay, you know how people flock to the beach? And what is the first thing people do when they get to the beach? They take their shoes and socks off and they walk along the beach barefoot. Do you know what's really happening there?
Really good in high school and getting
Makes you feel on top of the world.
I can always make excuses.
That applies both for
health to kind of
what fun is it if we all looked at
that path, don't have your friends.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the Mental Wellness Show. If you're new to the show's all about mental health, positivity, fun, everything in between. So if you clicked on the video, you're probably interested in learning about stress and overcoming stress. So I'm joined with Sandee Sgarlata, an expert in. Sandee, I'm going to kind of go over your credentials here, okay? And then I'll kind of let you kind of dive deeper into that. So Sandee, you're the author of Happiness Solved, Climbing 100 Steps, a certified life coach, retired, this is really interesting, Sandee, retired U.S. national and international figure skating coach, and has spent the past 20 years helping people create lasting changes in their lives. So that was kind of a lot there, Sandee, and if you can kind of talk about that more and how you started and all that and to where you're at now and just a little bit about your life.
Okay. So my book, Happiness Solved, Climbing 100 Steps, it's a part self-improvement. That's the Happiness Solved. My mini memoir, actually, it's only 4 chapters. My mini memoir is Climbing 100 Steps. And then it's also a workbook. And so I wrote this book because back in the early 90s, well, let me actually take it back a step further. The Climbing 100 Steps, that comes from when I was 12 years old. We lived in outside of Annapolis, Maryland, and we lived on the Severn River. And there was 100 steps that led from the river dock up to my house. And I used to run up and down the stairs. It was a challenge for me. It was kind of like I'd have those Rocky moments, that song, da-da-da, climbing the steps. And it was just, I loved it. It was like my happy place. So on September 30th, 1978, I was with a friend. I was called back early. And we're climbing the 100 steps, happy, happy, happy day, only to be greeted by my father. And I learned that my older brother had tragically died while serving in the U.S. Army. And so my whole world just kind of came crumbling down. So the climbing 100 steps kind of symbolizes that since that day, that very tragic occurrence that happened in my life, since that day, my life was always about trying to get back to that feeling that I had while climbing the 100 steps. Mm-hmm. And so fast forward 10, 12 years, I ended up abusing drugs, hit rock bottom, got my life together. And so that was over 30 years ago. That was when I started on this path that I've been on. And I live this way. Everything I write about in the book is how I have lived my life every day for over 30 years. And it's just all about, learning how to navigate through life, choosing happiness. But at the same time, in order to be happy, we still have to embrace and feel everything that we have going on around us. Right. Because life happens. Happiness is not a destination. It is a journey, and it will always be a journey. Okay.
Right.
So that's kind of like the thing behind my book. I ended up coaching figure skating, and a rink opened up. I figured I would just teach group lessons to boys and girls. I had never really competed much out of my region at all as a competitive figure skater. So I didn't have those impressive titles and competitions under my belt. So I had really very little expectations as to where I was going to go in the figure skating world as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And just happened to get this very talented student, took him to US Nationals. I watched him win his first gold medal at
Wow.
his win a gold medal at his first international competition. It was not his first gold medal. It was the first gold at an international competition. And then I took another skater to another international competition. And then I decided to, retire while I was on top. It just, there's a lot of, and I don't know if it's the same way today. I think it depends on where you work. But at that time, back in the early 2000s, and at the rink that I was at, there was a lot of drama and it was a little bit too toxic for me because, when you're on this path of self-discovery and self-improvement, you really do have to eliminate and try to change your circumstances if your circumstances are not serving you and are not helping you be the best version of yourself. So I ended up retiring.
Right. So,
Yeah.
let me ask real quick, how did you get into figure skating? How did that all start?
So my three brothers played ice hockey and my dad coached it.
Oh,
And
okay.
I wanted to play ice hockey. And this was when I was probably 5 or 6 years old. So this was the early 70s. And my dad was like, girls don't play ice hockey, period. So they put me into figure skating. So
Okay.
that was, I wanted to play ice hockey.
Well, that's a cool story, Sandee. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into the episode today, overcoming stress. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what exactly is stress, and why do we feel it?
Well, stress is a way that our body responds to the situations and the events that are occurring externally, or many times in our mind. Many times we're making up stuff. We're making a big deal out of something when it's really not. Like you're perceiving things to be worse than they really are, or whatnot. So, but generally, stress comes from when. So in our DNA, we're wired for that fight or flight because thousands of years ago, we had to, it was either run from the tiger or get eaten by the tiger, right?
Right.
It's in our DNA. So while we're not in that intense mode, our bodies still react in that way. And so what happens is our mind, focuses in on something and we start, I like to just call it making up a story. A lot of times we make up a story about what's happening. I actually believe that stress is something that we create in our minds.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're able to stay focused, there is no such thing as stress because you're staying focused. Now, that's a lot easier said than done, right?
Right.
Because we still have things happen. You still sit in traffic. You're late for an appointment. It's very, very stressful. It's totally real. However, when I say making up a story, it's basically to every situation, you've got three parts. You've got the situation that happened, the story that you make up about it, and the way you react.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A friend of mine who was a guest on my podcast shared that with me. And I love that. He summed it up just really nicely. So you're sitting in traffic, you're late for an appointment, and we start, oh, I'm late for the appointment, I'm going to get in trouble, blah, blah, blah. Instead, because there's nothing you can do about it. So instead, the way we react to it, the third part, is you have to be able to, and you can learn how to do this, to shift your perspective on what's going on around you. Because at that point, you've got choices. What choice do I want to make? I can choose to let myself get upset, or I can choose to take advantage of this moment and maybe listen to a book on tape, or, because at the end of the day, the stress that you're experiencing is not going to get you to where you're going any quicker. It's not going to make the traffic clear up. All you're doing is making up a story that's not serving you. And you're causing your own level of stress and or anxiety.
Exactly, Sandee. I work with a life coach, and I've learned very similar things. And I was watching a little bit of one of your podcasts, and you had mentioned about how stress is like an illusion, kind of like you were just mentioning now, and how if you're able to kind of focus at one thing at a time, that stress can kind of go away. And also, it's huge, kind of what you're talking about now is changing your mindset, changing your frame of how you look at things and how you think of things. And it kind of leads into another question about what are some other benefits of keeping a positive mindset, and then kind of how that ties into stress?
Well, by working on your mindset, and again, it's a journey, it's not a destination. And when I say working on your mindset, it's like any other thing that you're trying to accomplish. If you're training for a 5K race, you've got to run X amount of times a day.
Mm-hmm.
Doctors practice medicine, lawyers practice law, athletes practice their craft, writers are practicing their writing. We're podcasters. Every time we record a podcast, we're trying to improve and get better, right? It's a
Right.
practice, right? We're never going to be the end all. So mindset work is no different. It's a daily practice. And I actually take it a step further, because I've programmed myself to do this and have been for over 30 years. It's a constant thing. If I'm not focusing on my thoughts, because I'm very, very busy and I have a lot of, I'm juggling a lot of things at once. I'll check in every hour or every couple of hours and I'll say, okay, wait a second. What was that? I was focusing on this earlier. That was, that was negative. Let's rewrite that story. Let's think about that a little bit differently, because you have to remember there's thoughts going through our mind like nonstop.
Right.
So by practicing, and we get it back to your question, by practicing this every day and improving your mindset, it is going to have an effect on every single area of your life. It's going to affect your physical health, your spiritual health, and of course your mental well-being. And the big thing is when it comes to stress, by managing your mindset and getting into that rhythm and that, however that looks for you, your stress is going to be minimized exponentially, automatically, because you're already starting to see the world a little bit differently.
Right.
And let me just caveat, I do get stressed. I'm not saying that just because I'm a happiness coach and this and that, I do get stressed. It's a normal thing. It's okay. I would never sit here and tell you that, I never get stressed, because, if you want to live a completely stress-free life, go sit at the top of the mountain and meditate, 23 hours a day, and don't interact with any other human on the planet. Now, that's not a life either, but, that's not life. If you want to live your life and enjoy it to the fullest, all you have to do is just practice some mindset training and practice shifting and seeing things a different way. And you'll just realize that, yeah, things happen and I may be stressed for a couple of minutes. And then you're like, okay, take some deep breaths. All right. I got this. It's okay.
I love that, Sandee. I'm always catching myself taking deep breaths, because that helps me a lot. And I think when people start to practice, that's when they start to realize, like, wow, this is much more manageable. I can shift my mind from those negative to positive thoughts. And like you said, everyone goes through stress. Everyone has things in their day. Nobody's happy all the time. But it's that constant practice of checking in with yourself and flipping the switch from that negative to positive, and just doing your best, on a daily thing. So a question that kind of leads into is, what is the fastest way to shift your mood from that negative to a positive?
So there's a couple of techniques that you can use. Deep breathing is definitely one of them. And I want to start with that just simply because some people experience anxiety and they may think that it's stress. So what you don't want to have happen is that you let your stress turn into anxiety. So my son has anxiety, and I go through this with him, and I'll be like, because he, it's a disorder. It's, he's been diagnosed. I mean, it's highly manageable. It's not a huge deal because, he's learned how to work with it. But one of the things that I have him do is take deep breaths. And that's just as applicable when you're really stressed. So you just start taking deep breaths in through your nose, really deep breath in through your nose, hold it for a few seconds, out through your mouth. There's lots of theories out there. 3 seconds in, hold for 3 seconds, exhale for 3, there's lots of different things you can play with, whatever works for you. That's a really important one, because what that will do is it's going to start to bring your blood pressure down. And that's what you want. You want to bring that blood pressure down. And that's how the deep breaths will help for that. However, for the mindset shift, one of the quickest ways to get your mindset to shift from negative to positive is to focus on everything that you have to be grateful for. So gratitude. So here's the thing. Are you familiar with the map of consciousness by
I'm
Stephen
not.
Hawkins?
I'm not.
Okay, so there's this Stephen Hawkins, Dr. Stephen Hawkins, a brilliant man. He's written all sorts of books on consciousness and this and that. He has what's called the map of consciousness. And basically, at the top of the map, you've got love, and it's basically all of the different emotions and feelings. And as you move down, in the middle of it, it's at a neutral thing, and that's kind of where certain other I'd have to pull it up. And as I'm talking about this, I'm going to pull it up on my
Sure.
but as you get further down the map of consciousness, what happens is that you're going to start getting into the lower energy level words, such as, regret, shame, that kind of thing.
Right.
Because here's the thing, we're all energy fields, right? Can we all agree on that?
Yes. Everyone
Okay.
said yes.
Okay, everyone said yes. You can agree that we are all energy fields. So what the map of consciousness does is what he did was he took like all of the negative emotions, all the way up to like at the bottom it's force, the top is power. And he basically put a rating on it. So down at the very bottom, you have shame. He put a scale of 0 to 1,000. Shame is like a 20. Okay. Then you go into, like pride, 175. Right above that is courage, 200. But then you start getting into other ones at the very top, which between 700 to 1,000 is enlightenment. And over the course of history, there's only been very few people when they use them. And folks, they study this stuff at like Yale University and Stanford and stuff like that. So this is kind of like a real science, and very esteemed professors around the world are studying this whole theory that I'm discussing. So very few people like ever made it to this enlightenment phase. You're talking about Mother Teresa. They say Buddha. They say Jesus. They, a lot of, because most of these people have been deceased for many, many years. But here's the thing. That's all I have to say about the map of consciousness. So this is why it's important when you're feeling this negativity, because your energy levels are down here. Your energy levels are down here. Okay. When you're feeling all of that. Gratitude is such a powerful emotion that when you start focusing on everything you have to be grateful for, your the way you show up in the world just starts to rise, and you're eliminating all that negativity, and you start just exuding positivity. But the thing is it calms you down. So that's why gratitude is so quick to shift your emotions. It's a great practice to get into every day when you wake up. Focus on everything that you have to be grateful for. Try to list out 10 things. I always highly recommend handwriting it, because when you handwrite, it uses more of your senses whenever you handwrite things out. And so it's going to sink in a little bit more. Anytime during the day when you're feeling, negative, something happens, just start focusing on everything that you have to be grateful for. And if you can't think of anything, think about your legs. I'm so grateful. You can never forget about your body parts. I'm so grateful that my legs have carried me. They ran me across the finish line of the Marine Corps Marathon. They helped me skate my way to becoming a U.S. national figure skating coach. Like there's so many things we have to be grateful for, because at the end of the day, there's always somebody that has it worse off than you do.
Right, Sandee. A couple things here. I'm super intrigued with this, the map of consciousness now. I'm really intrigued by that. I've been checking that out. And another thing about gratitude, I recently learned a little 5-minute morning routine hack when you wake up in the morning, and it was movement, music, writing, and I always forget one of them. But the writing part was you're writing what you're grateful for. And it, like you said, it kind of makes a positive spin in life and makes you think to the positive. And again, if you struggle, like you mentioned, if you struggle with some things that you're grateful for, just think simple. Like, for example, like I am always grateful for my bed. I'm always grateful that I have a comfortable place to sleep in. I'm always grateful for my pets. They're always, I have my dog here in the background. She just loves me, and she's always happy to see me. So there are things in life that even if they're very simple, that we can identify as being grateful for.
Yes.
So So I love that. And I really love this level map of consciousness. I'm going to be taking a deeper look at this after the show. I'm glad you showed this and you brought this up to me because this is really cool.
It is. It's very cool. And let me just go back when I talked about the numbers, they kind of equate that to a frequency. So you have like different, and that's kind of, and I'm not into physics or quantum theories and this and that. I'm talking about this on a very, very high level, folks. And I'm sorry if I'm not articulating it as well, but it's one of the things I know about. I don't teach it. I don't, it's one of the things I always introduce in some of my group coaching as on a very high level, just to kind of give people, when I talk about energy, when I talk about your energy, I explain this so that people understand what I'm referring to when I talk about energy, because we all operate on different frequencies. So here's an example. You're in a room with a group of people and somebody walks in and you can tell instantly that they are pissed off, right? You know how you can look at someone's face and you know immediately that they're pissed off. But guess what? People aren't aware of this. You're also feeling it. You are feeling that negativity. Okay? Same is true when somebody walks up to you and they've got great news and they're so excited and you just want to keep talking to them because it feels so good, right? Because that energy that people are emitting out, we feel it. And you want to be around the people that are helping you elevate your own frequencies, your own level of consciousness.
Right.
Right.
That makes sense too. And that's why I think you hear a lot about surrounding yourself with positive people and people that support you. And because if you surround yourself with people who are constantly, negative and upset and focused on the wrong things, then it's gonna rub off on you, and you're gonna be like that too. So that makes sense, Sandee. So let's touch a little bit on just some other ways. I actually do have a question about stress, as far as if a friend or family member is going through something, what advice could I give them to kind of help them through a stressful time?
Yeah, that's a great question, Max, because so often I think that people don't know how to handle, that situation, maybe, like when they're surrounded by people. So here's the thing. Most people, when they're going through something and they start talking about it, they don't want you to fix it. Maybe not at first, right? This is a big thing between the difference between men and women. Like, men instantly want to fix it. They start, their brain, you have a problem or you have a situation, their brain automatically starts trying to figure out how to solve this problem. How can we help this? And it's okay. I'm not making any men wrong for that. It's just, that's how you're wired, right? And so as long as women understand that men try to fix things, and like for me in my marriage, I say to my husband, I don't need you to fix this. Just hear me out. I just want you to listen to me. So that's the most important, the first step that you want to do when you have someone that is in a situation, they're stressed, upset, whatever. Listen. That is the greatest gift you can give anyone, is to listen to them and let them, and I've always found, and I think instead of trying to fix it, sometimes if you have your own experience, so instead of saying, oh, well, you ought to try this, or da-da-da-da, it's like, you know what, gosh, I went through that one time and this is what I did to help me and it really helped me. Because you're not telling them how to fix it. Number one, you're letting them know that you relate to them and that you understand and you empathize with what you're going through, because I've been through it too. And then this is what I did, or here's how this played out for me, or whatever. So you want to listen to them, let them know that you understand, let them know, instead of just pushing your help on them, how can I support you? Just ask them that question. How can I support you? How can I help you out? What do you need from me right now?
Right. Because with that, you're not inside their body. You don't know exactly what they're feeling. So you may not even know what the best thing is for them. So by asking that, you can at least get an idea of what's going on, and just being there to listen,
Right.
can have a helpful, have that helpful hand there for them.
Right.
So that
Exactly.
makes sense.
And yeah. And just to add on real quickly, a lot of times people are afraid to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
That's why just letting them know, how can I support you? What can
Right.
I do to help you through this?
Right.
And then they're
Right,
going to
Sandee.
hopefully tell you, right, what it is that they need.
Right. Just at least being there for them, that option to have them talk to you about what's going on is very helpful. So
And
thank
also
you,
a
Sandee.
big hug. Hugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
No,
don't care about COVID anymore. I'm hugging everybody.
I think I'm sure physical touch has a
It's
huge
huge.
influence on feeling better too, and just emotions coming out and stuff. So
I mean, you can even do that with yourself if you're having a rough day, just give yourself a big hug.
hmm
That really
I
helps too.
Sandee, I think there's a huge thing in the little things, and by little things I mean taking deep breaths, hugging yourself, smiling, doing these things that seem so like they may have a minimal effect, but they really can change the rest of your day. When you just take that moment to step back and be like, okay, here's I may be feeling overwhelmed right now, but I got this. Take a deep breath, give yourself a little hug, smile a little bit, take a look at what you have to do today. Just go take it one step at a time. And it's just like doing that little thing can really kind of flip your mind, flip it from what it was overwhelmed, negative to something positive. So the little things are huge. I think I'm
Yes.
really starting to realize that.
Yes.
So Sandee, a couple more questions here. So, um, and these all kind of tie together, but what advice can you give to listeners to help them find happiness in their lives? And if that's just by reducing stress or any other tips that we can just be more happy in our lives, find more happiness.
Mm. There's several things that people can do. Yes, if you're living a stressful life, by all means, work on managing that first. And that's going to just help you and give you kind of an intro into the rest of the things that you need to do, the whole mindset shift that we're trying to do with this. Because remember, happiness is a choice. It is not a destination. Too often people are saying, oh, well, when I have that promotion, I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
When I get that new house, I'll be happy. When I have that perfect partner, I'll be happy. No,
Right.
that's just it's a myth, and it's all you're doing is making up stories that are not true, and they are never going to happen. Because if you wait until
Right.
then, that's what I talk about when it's people think it's a destination. So along the way, there's all sorts of things. We talked before about making up stories. The situation happens. What story are you making up? That also goes into changing your perception. That's a whole nother conversation. I could talk to you for at least an hour about shifting your perspective and how that
Mm-hmm.
will make a difference. But it's also about another huge part of being happy is forgiveness.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're feeling anything other than peace in your heart, there is someone that you need to forgive. Most likely you need to forgive yourself. Okay. And the reason is for that is that if you're holding on to bitterness, that you cannot experience, happiness and bitterness at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have both. It's one or the other. So if you're somebody that feels a lot of bitter, you have to work on that bitterness first. And that the only way to eliminate that bitterness is through forgiveness. There's no other way. Forgiveness is not about letting someone off the hook for something that they did. Okay. It's not saying that what they did is okay. What you're doing is by not forgiving them, that you're letting them take up space in your head.
Mm-hmm.
And by forgiving them, you're freeing yourself up so that you are free, not them. It has nothing to do with the other person. It's all about you. And that goes for forgiving yourself. We are so hard on ourselves. So, and at any point, when I say that I work on this every day and I'm always evaluating my mindset, forgiveness is a part of that. I practice forgiveness multiple times a day because I am human and I am flawed. And I do things that I don't mean to do. I say things that I don't mean to say. No one is perfect. We all do it. I am hard on myself. quite frankly, sometimes I'm mean to myself. I mean, we're it's just part of our DNA, and it's okay. The difference is how you react. That, we have the situation, the story we make up, and the way we react. It's all about that reaction. Are you going to forgive them? Practice gratitude. Accept things as they show up in your life, and trust without expectations. Practice kindness. Notice miracles. Get in nature. Take care of yourself. I mean, it's just read my book. There you go. So, and in my book, I have worksheets as well in the back of the book, and there are different exercises that you can practice. And I recommend that you do these exercises every day for 30 days to help create that habit. So,
Sandee, you mentioned so many good things right there. We're going to touch on your book a little bit, but I wanted to ask, is that available on Amazon?
it's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. On Amazon, you can get it in every format available. There's an audiobook, Kindle. And if your listeners want to email me, it's not on my website. You can go to my Linktree on Instagram, and there's a free digital copy of my book that they can get. Or they can email me, and I can send them a digital copy of the book as well.
Okay, perfect. We'll link some of that to the show notes of the episode. And I wanted to touch on, I'm so glad you brought up forgiveness, because that's not something I've really talked about much on the podcast yet. And I love what you said. It's not letting the other person off the hook. It's so that the other person no longer has that space in your head. So you can move forward, with your life. You can get away from being stuck on that person in your head. So I've never really thought about it like that before. And I think that's huge. And I love that piece of advice. I wrote that down. And then I also love how you talked about how happiness and bitterness, they can't coincide with each other, So really good stuff, Sandee. And your book sounds like it's got a lot of good stuff. You just started naming off all these things that can bring you simple joys. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And I'm like, man, read the book. Okay. I love that. So one last question here, Sandee, to kind of tie things together. What's the one, probably the best recommendation you have if the viewer were to close off the computer right now, get off? What is one thing they can do to reduce their stress right now? What can they do?
Right now, take a walk in nature. Just if you're stressed in there at work, take a walk in nature, and do some grounding. I didn't even talk about that. Can I talk about that real quickly?
Yeah.
So
Yes,
grounding or earthing is really, really huge. And what that means is, you know how people flock to the beach? And what is the first thing people do when they get to the beach? They take their shoes and socks off and they walk along the beach barefoot. Mm-hmm. Do you know what's really happening there? The earth is pulling out negativity through your feet. Your bare feet are touching the earth, and the earth is so powerful, it pulls negativity. It's called earthing or grounding. So you don't have to go to the beach to experience that. Just walk outside and walk on the grass in your bare feet.
Okay.
If it's really cold out, you could probably still do it. But that's just a really quick way to also, reduce stress right now. But get your heart rate up. That's probably the quickest way. Just go for a fast walk. Getting that heart rate up is going to reduce the anxiety and the stress pretty quickly, because you're emitting endorphins and all that.
Right, and I'll prove your point right here about taking a walk in nature. I was feeling, it was probably last week, I was feeling super anxious or just stress overwhelmed for some reason that morning, and I just had to stop what I was doing here at the computer, and I went on a walk outside, and it allowed me to take these deep breaths, and really it's almost like this Zen moment, it's like a form of meditation for me. And it's just you have that calm sense of being able to focus on what I need to do. It's all good. I don't need to feel this overwhelming feeling. So, and then that's the first time I've heard about grounding and earthing. So this is very cool. And when I think about me at the beach and having my feet in the sand, it feels good. Right. And it's interesting how you mentioned it's the earth pulling that negativity out you. And I may literally go try after the show, go step outside in the grass, really, because I haven't done that in a long time either. So I'm going to embrace that after the show here.
Yeah.
Because it's nice outside too. So that is very cool. Grounding and earthing. Sandee, I love that so much. I think we hit a lot of great topics for overcoming stress in 2022, shifting your mindset from negative to positive, just overall some happier tips. So we spoke on your book a little bit. Happiness is a choice. No, sorry, can you say the title of your book?
Yeah, it's Happiness Solved.
Happiness Solved. Okay. And
Yeah.
then we will link that in the show notes here. And then Sandee, is there anywhere else that I can send my audience that you'd want them to go to?
Well, you can visit my Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram, which is at Coach Sandee Sgarlata. And yeah, check out my podcast, which is Happiness Solved. And that you can go to happinesssolved.com and you'll see all the episodes. We just released episode 90 something today. We're almost at 100.
Wow.
I've recorded 120 interviews, but
Holy moly.
we're on episode 97 will be released on Wednesday of this week.
Wow.
Yes.
Congratulations, by the way. You're almost at 100.
Almost at 100, yeah.
Released. Wow. Okay. So yeah. So Sandee, sounds good. I'll go ahead and punch in your Instagram, your podcast, and your book all in the notes here on the show.
Okay.
Sandee, thank you for coming on and sharing
you,
all
Max.
your tips and your story here. And Sandee, just hold on a second. I'm going to close out the show and then I'll talk to you a little bit after I hit stop.
All right, sounds good.
Thank
you,
you
Max.
everybody thank you, Sandee. Hopefully everyone learned something today. I know I did. There was a couple things that I really didn't know about. So again, if you guys are new to the Mental Wellness Show and you enjoyed the content, Instagram at the Mental Wellness Show, check it out. There's a lot going on there. And like the episode, please subscribe if you guys really enjoy it. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday or Friday. I think we're doing 2 videos a week now. So thank you everybody for watching and we'll see you in the next video.